Last summer, while on vacation, my wife Didi, 27F, and I, 29M, were approached by another couple while on a cruise. We had dinner and drinks with them for a couple of days and had some interesting conversations about their open relationship. They floated several options to us: three-way lay, soft swap, or hard swap. However, in the end, we both weren't comfortable with the idea, but it planted the seed. We researched and talked until we finally felt ready to start exploring. At first, it was fun going through the apps and looking at different profiles. We both saw the responses we were getting, and we laughed at some and cringed at others. I learned from watching the ones that caught my wife's eye and tweaked my profiles to emulate those, and surprisingly, it did help with my responses. This went on for several weeks, and she finally had a shortlist and sent out 4 responses. All 4 answered quickly, and she began texting and talking, finally setting up her first date. We both had butterflies when she left, and they met for dinner. Per our protocols, she sent me his picture and made sure his ID matched the name he had given her. I did a quick search and sent her a thumbs up, then settled in and started a movie. She sent a check-in through our tracking app, indicating she was at his house, with an emoji that meant she felt safe. A few hours later, I got a notice that she was mobile, and a text saying she was on her way home. She came home bouncing and giggling through the front door. She had brought me a pastry home, and while I ate that, she showered. Then, I got to experience reclaiming her in bed, and it brought with it some awesome energy and passion. We talked the next morning, both of us excited about last night. We made plans for a date night for the 2 of us the following night after her date, and we had a wonderful night. The following week, she met guy number 2 for a short coffee date after work, and they hit it off, making plans for a date the following week. Our agreement in the beginning was a 1 date per week limit, at her request. She had a second date with guy number 1 the same week, but I said the coffee date shouldn't count as a date since it was basically a meet and greet. The second date with guy number 1 went well, and I got another dose of emotional energy afterward. After her second date, I received an invitation from someone I had been talking to, and we set a date to have drinks and see where things led us from there. I was excited, but Didi was struggling a little as I got ready to leave. We hugged it out, and I offered to stay if she wanted me to, but she said she needed to push through it and would be alright. I met Kathy, and per protocol, sent Didi a picture and began talking with Kathy. We were getting along great, and she suggested going somewhere a little quieter. I was kind of waiting for a response from Didi and sent a message asking if everything was all good, which was followed by a thumbs up from Didi. Kathy and I stopped at a bakery, then went to her house, and I checked in again. We cuddled for a while and made out on her couch. Kathy said she didn't want to smash on the first date, which I respected. However, later, she initiated some slop top, which became mutual, and it ended in the shower together. As I got dressed to leave, Kathy said we had unfinished business and wanted to know when we could see each other again. I told her about my weekly limit and that sometime next week would be lovely. She said to call her, and we will plan on dinner in. I came home to find Didi in tears, and it looked like she had been crying for quite some time. She thought she could handle it, but said she just went downhill the entire night. I did everything I could to comfort and reassure her, and she finally settled down and just cuddled until we went to sleep. The next day, she was withdrawn and moped around the house. I finally got her to open up and talk about it. She felt like she needed some more time to be okay with sharing me and asked if we could slow down. I said I would and asked if she wanted to talk to someone or if both of us should see a counselor together. She said she would try to see a therapist, and we could go from there. The next day, I was doing some chores outside, and when I came in, I heard Didi talking on the phone and making plans for next Thursday. When she got off the phone, I asked her who she was talking to, and she acted startled, then started talking about taking the cars down and getting them washed today. I asked her what was going on next Friday, and she said she had a date with guy number 2. I said I thought we were going to slow down and work on some things first, and her answer was that they had already planned their date last week when they had coffee, and she felt bad about canceling on him. So I asked her if I was the only one not allowed to date because of her feelings while she got to keep dating other people. After some back and forth, she said it wasn't fair to guy number 2 because he had already made plans. So, I picked up my phone and started texting. When I was done, Didi asked me what I was doing. I said I was confirming a date with Kathy for next Friday and got a text alert just as I said that. Wednesday morning, before we left for work, Didi came to me asking to please cancel my date with Kathy until she could get in and talk with her therapist. I asked for her phone and started composing a text message to guy number 2. I'm sorry, but I have closed my open marriage with my husband until I can work through some of my issues. I hope you understand how sorry I am and forgive me for the short notice, but my marriage is the most important thing to me right now. I handed the phone back to her to read and said, if you hit send, I will cancel my date, and then you can copy it and send it to guy number 1 as well. She looked like I had just run over her dog with a car. She said I was being mean and didn't care about her feelings. I asked her if that message wasn't the same thing she wanted me to send to Kathy. I said it was her choice, but to make it quick. I told her I had agreed to slow things down, but I expected that it would be fair, and she would do the same. Maybe we need to just close and start over, or maybe just stay closed if this is how she is going to handle issues when they come up. I don't think it's fair for her to close my side when I did nothing wrong. Edit. So Didi sent the message I wrote with an addition, due to a crisis I had after my husband's first date. Guy number 1 was gracious and understood, while guy number 2 was very rude and blocked her afterward. She showed me her phone to confirm it. She has an appointment with her therapist on Monday morning, but our couple's therapist can't see us for 10 days. Her therapist did talk with her on the phone for 20 minutes today. Didi has been listening to podcasts or had a nose in a book since last weekend. We both kind of agreed that instead of keeping busy and distracted, she just sat and let it overwhelm her. Monday night, after her session, she wants to sit down and talk with me about reopening, starting with a date with Kathy and me that Friday if she feels ready. We both agreed to stay in contact with guy number 1 and Kathy, guy number 2 and everyone else will be no contact for now. Update 1. So it's been about 2 weeks since I last posted, and some things have happened. On Friday morning, she woke up whining about my date and wanted to know if I would postpone it. I said it would be unfair to cancel my date with Kathy on such short notice, but if she felt that way, we could just chalk this up to a failed experiment and go back to monogamy. We ate lunch together later, and she said she felt better about it and wanted me to go ahead with my date. I had a great time and came home just bouncing. However, when I arrived home, I saw 2 wine bottles almost empty on the kitchen counter, and Dee Dee was curled up on the couch intoxicated. I didn't receive a warm welcome home. She was short, sarcastic, and mean. I said, "That's it, this isn't going to work out," and she could consider our marriage closed again. Then I went to bed. Saturday morning, I woke up disappointed and slightly angry about the entire situation. I got a hungover Dee Dee out of bed and said we needed to have a serious talk. I waited until she was on her second cup of coffee before I got started. Our deal was that I would go on a couple of dates, and if she was fine, she could start dating again. If she wasn't fine, we would close for 6 months to give her time to exercise her demons, and then I would start dating. If things went well, she could then start dating again herself. I told her I was through. I didn't want to come home after a date and have to deal with all this drama again. I said, "That's not what you had to deal with when you came home, and it just wasn't fair." At that, she said she was sorry for what she said last night. She knows she acted awfully toward me and kept saying how sorry she was. I reminded her what we agreed upon and that she should send a last message to anyone she was still talking to before she blocked them and deleted all her dating profiles. She wants to stay in contact with a couple of them since they have become friends, but I said they would be a distraction and temptation that wouldn't be healthy. I told her we could have 1 more couple sessions for closure, and she could keep seeing her individual therapist or get a new one if she thought that would help. Maybe in the fall, we could revisit this again. She begged for another chance, but I said I couldn't take the emotional roller coaster anymore, and she just needed more time to sort through and deal with her feelings before we opened up again. She said I was lucky to find someone like Kathy whom I connected with so fast, and she was afraid it might take a long time for me to find somebody like that when we tried again. Edit. I wrote half of this last night and the rest this morning. When I reread it, there was a lot of anger last night. I have tried the last few weeks to be supportive and showered Dee Dee with extra love and attention to help her get through this. For now, we are closed, and I feel some resentment, and I am sure Dee Dee may as well, and we will address that. Thanks if you made it this far.